This week we're with Jessica Schneider, the supervisor from the Clover Hill District, and we're meeting today to talk about her time with the supervisors and other subjects. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're here on a rainy Friday to talk about how you got to be on the supervisors and where you came from to get on the supervisors.
I guess my civic engagement started probably when we first moved down here from the Midwest. My husband and I moved down here, it'll be 9 years ago, from the Midwest. Originally from Wisconsin, spent 11 years in Illinois after that, excuse me. And then my husband got transferred down here for his work. As soon as we moved in to our neighborhood in Bexley, my neighbor across the street was on the HOA and was looking for someone to get engaged with the Architectural Covenants Committee. And I have a background in interior design, and my dad was a builder. I do a lot of my husband and I do flipping sometimes. So it seemed like a natural. I have my degree. I specialized in historical design, etc. And so our neighborhood is a lot of the houses are designed after Williamsburg type houses, and so it just seemed like a natural, fun thing and a great way to get to know the neighborhood and the people that live there and protect the beauty of it. So that turned into getting on. I did that, and then I was still doing that, and they asked me if I would be on the board as well. So I was on the board for 4 years and then ended up taking over as the president for another 4 years. In that time, we had a lot of development in our neighborhood, additional neighborhoods that were added on to lots of land that were sold on the backside of our development, and had to deal with the county and planning and Chris Winslow. And he comes off as a really nice guy, and everybody, says, oh yeah, he's really great, and he answers the phone when I call him, says he's going to look into something, and then no follow through. Or he'll pass it off on to someone else, and then I would have to follow up because I wouldn't know what was happening with it. So those types of processes, in my mind, don't serve your citizens. It's all well and good to say that you're going to do something, but you need to follow through. And if you can't do something, then you need to be big enough to say, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. That combined with 2016 getting me very activated in politics. I started following the LWCC ladies. In 2019, I started doing postcards with them. There was a lot of other engagement there, but I have a gay son. I also have a daughter who lives in a state that has a trigger law that went into effect when Roe was overturned. She lives in Wisconsin. They have an 1849 trigger law that went into effect. These things matter, and the fact that my kids are have fewer rights than I had is wrong, and I can't complain about it and not do something about it.
So what I hear you saying is that you're talking about politics as being local, and that the most local office that you can hold could possibly make the biggest difference.
Well, I definitely think you got to start somewhere. I mean, yes, I think that those are and that's how I look at it, is that, I was the head of our HOA, which was 450 people, or 450 homes, and I served them well, and they all will admit that that's the case. Some of them, whether they were Republican or Democrat, voted for it. I mean, a vast majority of them voted for me, because they understood that I'm there for the people and I do what I say I'm going to do. And so from there, I guess the biggest, or the next circle to move out to, would be local government. So it's about starting small and moving out and affecting more groups of people.
What I hear you saying is that you like to be results oriented rather than rhetoric.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I am definitely, if I can't do something, I will let you know. If I can, I will do my best to do it. And if I fail, I will own up to that and say, let's see what other way we can approach this and see if there's another solution. I believe transparency and honesty is the best policy. you can't say one thing and do another.
What do you think growing up in the Midwest did to prepare you for a life of public service?
Well, I grew up in a very small farming community, so I knew everybody, and everybody knew everybody else. And so it was, my dad was a scoutmaster for 35 years. He was on the volunteer fire department. My mom was the scout leader also, and involved in the church. It's just one of those things, again, involving yourself in the community and doing service where you are. And again, I mean, I just think that those were things that were instilled in me, and I tried to carry those forward.
What do you think is the missing ingredient in trying to get people involved in caring and taking action in their community for things that they think are important?
I think a lot of times people think, well, someone else can do it. You know, they don't think about the impact of one. I think that they feel like, you know, well, I don't need to go vote because it's just one vote. Well, if 500 people think that's 500 votes. And so it's a matter of making it a priority in your life, and saying everything I do impacts other people. And that's just something this is a sidebar, but I have studied with shamanic leaders, and I'm an honorary member of an Ojibwe tribe in Wisconsin. Indigenous people believe that everything is connected. And I think that in its finest, the smallest essence, I mean, that's exactly what politics are. It's everything is connected and affects one thing from another. And so if you're going to, again, this goes back to, if you're going to complain about something, then you've got to be willing to do something about it. Otherwise, you need to, you know, just accept what you've given up. Because if you don't believe strongly enough in it, then you can't complain when you don't get what you want.
A lot of people don't realize that.
No, I know. I have a 31-year-old and a 29-year-old, and like I said, it's just my son. Sometimes it's just, you know, I think a lot of the younger age, the middle age, those kids, that age range, I think they grew up in. I think computers and the electronics affected them a lot because they became so isolated and almost dependent upon those types of things, and they lost the ability to communicate person to person because they use their text for everything, or it's just, I think that some of them are just, they don't want to step out of that comfort zone. It's like a safety place for them. So I really try to push my kids as much as possible too.
It's been kind of what has been normal for them, though, growing up in an era where the internet was growing up and exploding, and the opportunities and the downfall and the drawbacks for the internet all became very apparent. Yeah.
Although I do say that, I mean, I think that the Gen Zs have learned something from that. The Gen Zs tend to be getting much more activated. I've had some great interactions just as since in my short time as a supervisor with high school kids that are, you know, they're getting out there and they want to get involved and they are activated. And I just think that we need to push more of that.
How much of that do you think has to do with what they see as the future coming down the road, where there are uncertainties about the environment, there are uncertainties about the quality of our government, there are uncertainties about the ideology and the philosophy at play in our society today? How much do you think that matters to them?
Well, I definitely think that they are seeing that they're getting the short end of the stick. And I think that actually part of that may have started that activation was COVID. Again, that was just one more thing that they missed out on, and one more thing that, you know, was taken from them and that they had to go through. And so I think that maybe made them angry and And not that, they were in denial, because I know most kids were very realistic about it. But again, they lost part of their childhood and their schooling and those interactions with their friends. And it made them very, I think, angry and maybe jaded a little bit. And I think, that too. And I think that it's just, it's pushed them to say, we need to fight more to get back to what we get back what we lost, and to make it very clear that we are going to own our destiny, kind of thing.
What do you think this new reality that people in Gen Z and older millennials, what do you think that they think about when they think about the future?
Right now, it's a pretty scary picture in my mind, and I think that they see it as that also. But yet, I think they're caught in a catch-22 right now. They realize, yes, Joe Biden is he's the better option of the two, but is he the person that they would want? No. And so, once again, they're making compromises and thinking, well, do we want to continue to make compromises? But if we don't vote for Joe Biden, we could end up with Trump again. And I think that's a very, very scary proposition. And it terrifies me. And I think that more people need to come to that realization. And I agree. We need to have... Dems need to have better messaging. Dems need to work together. I just said this. I was just talking with someone on the way over here, and I said, what's the point of having a majority if we're not going to use it and we're not going to work together? And so Dems tend to have infighting. If you see the Republicans, they don't give a shit. Excuse my language, but they're willing to, jump on board with Mr. Trump just to get elected. They don't care, which says a lot about their scruples, but that's beside the point. There are very few true Republicans left that, are stepping away from that right now because they see that there's no other option if they want to win.
It's a time unlike any other that I've seen in my lifetime.
Everybody says this is the most significant, every year this is the most significant. I can't say it strong enough that this is absolutely. I don't think that we're going to have elections. That's a scary possibility. If Mr. Trump gets into office, that we would lose our ability to have elections.
What do you think about the thought that people think, since they don't see things that they think are important being dealt with, that they would say that there's no need to vote because they don't think that what they do voting is not going to make any difference?
So I think that's kind of where we fall with the Gen Zs. They still have some immaturity in their thought process. I get it. I have 2 kids that have lots and lots of college debt. Forgiveness would have been wonderful. Now, my kids, it wouldn't have affected anyway because we had to co-sign and had private loans for all of their stuff. So they really wouldn't have been affected. But the point of the matter is that they're feeling slighted. And I think they need to get out of their egos and realize the big picture. Joe Biden has done a lot of really good things in his time. Things that were not able to get done before. And so he even was able to negotiate a border, the most progressive in the favor of what the Republicans thought was progressive action for the border, and they turned it down because heaven forbid they sign on to another win for Joe Biden.
Compare for me what you think the single issue idea is versus the so-called airtight agenda of the Republicans, where they are unified in the message, but the message may be toxic and unfortunate and not good for our country.
Well, they're unified. Again, unified is going to get you somewhere, in my mind. Now, again, I have a feeling there are people that are going to get to the voting polls and say, well, can I really vote for this person? However, Democrats I mean, just look at some of the local, our state federal elections going on. There are 12 Democrats running against each other in Abigail Spanberger's spot. What does that do but diversify and use up money and resources? And I believe there's a place for primaries, that's absolutely. But when you've got 12 people all in the same race, what is that doing? That's just dividing and to be fair, in that race, a lot of their platforms are very similar. So why can't they sit down and say, okay, we need to get rid of some of us because this isn't serving anyone. And I just think that doesn't happen. There is not that talking. Democrats talk in small groups and they form factions, I think, sometimes. And they just, and I can personally say that on the board right now, I feel like I am very much more progressive than my other two Dems. And I feel that it isolates me sometimes. And it pisses me off because we should be working to get stuff done, to serve the people that elected us. And why can't we find that middle ground to do that? Instead of playing, nicey nice and, giving in to the other two that are on our board.
What do you think is the value of the local Democratic committee to the community, and why do you think that it seems difficult sometimes to get people involved?
Well, we have that core group. There are those people, they're the diehards that are going to be there no matter what. Yeah. The point of the matter is that how do we expand on that? How do we... And it's not going to happen again if we're going to be infighting. And so, in Chesterfield in particular, people were shocked to find out that we had flipped the board blue. And that is because Chesterfield has been historically red. We're never going to change it, ever, ever. And it has. And people haven't talked about it. They don't. When new people move in, we're the fastest growing county in the state. And people are not talking to each other. I think they move in and they're afraid to say, I'm a Democrat. There are more of us than them, especially in my district.
Chesterfield is the second largest entity in the state at around 380,000 citizens.
I think it's number 4th in population, but it's the fastest growing right now for the last 3 years consecutively. Yeah, population. It's like 5% per year. That's huge. I mean, if you're thinking about, it's insane. So we need to, I don't know. I don't have the answers. Every time I get the opportunity, I talk to someone, and I just know from people that I meet, people that I come in contact, I'm so glad that you were elected. We really need your change. Okay, well, then what are you going to do about that and continue to push it in that direction? Because we're here, there are people here that are like you. We need to get them out and vote.
And people might say to themselves, oh, there's a friendly face or a friendly ideology or a friendly thought process going on in the supervisors because we elected this person, so now we can sit back and see what they have to do. And
sit back on their laurels. And we can't do that. We have to continue to push. There's just no other way to say it. We have no time or leisure to sit back and do nothing.
In a short detour here, maybe you could say a few words about the state of growth in Chesterfield County.
Well, people are coming here because it's again, this goes back to COVID. When people became able to work remotely, they started to migrate south from the larger, Philadelphia, New York, D.C., Baltimore, those are Boston, those areas where they could work anywhere along, in the United States, and they could get a house here that was 10 times larger than their apartment in New York that they were paying as much for their rent. And so, of the localities, the availability of housing is probably the greatest in Chesterfield, and that is where people started to come to. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been growth in the city and Henrico and such, but Chesterfield has the most land mass. We have the most availability of housing. Is that housing affordable anymore? No, because that influx of all those people raised all of our assessments of our houses up. In the 9 years I've been here, my house has gone from $350,000 to $550,000. That's a lot in that amount of time, I think. So we definitely, my mind is that we really need to stop and think hard about the type of development that we're doing. But the unfortunate fact is that there were 13,000 units approved before I even took office. They're all just sitting there waiting to pop up out of the ground. And who's going to get in trouble for those when they start coming up and people are just like, stop building all these houses?
Yeah, the carry-on effect from the previous supervisors.
Correct. I am trying to be as judicious as possible about developing and what I'm doing and making sure that they're well-made developments and well-thought-out developments, and try to preserve as many trees as we can, create as much connectivity as we can.
I've seen an undercurrent of grumbling and complaint about the lack of infrastructure in areas that are being developed in the western county.
Yeah, just had the conversation with, I'm very close with some of the Magnolia Coalition folks, and I was talking with one of them yesterday, and I got some information from transportation this morning. I actually rode on those roads the other day, I was at the landfill in Skin Quarter and had to get to Gather over on Midlothian Turnpike. So the shortest trip was going down Skin Quarter to Duval to Otterdale. It's scary driving out there. You feel like you're going to fall off the edge of the earth. There's like no room whatsoever. It's like, I think, an 18-foot wide road. And they're going to put buses and kids and high school students driving on those narrow, dangerous, windy roads. It's a recipe for disaster, if you ask me.
What role do you think VDOT has in that scenario and in delivering the kind of value to the county that the county needs when a lot of growth means a lot of new roads? The county is dedicating roads to VDOT right and left because of the development that's going on. What do you think about their ability to keep up?
They can't. And VDOT is... I don't know. They move like a whale they're large and big and move slowly, and it's like a glacier maybe. I guess maybe that's
like a sloth in molasses.
It's just, they get so caught up in, traffic studies, and they need this much, demand on the road they don't bother using common sense. They have their metrics and they follow their metrics, and they don't look at, okay, but is the road safe? If it's an old road and they didn't build it in the last 20 years or whatever, it's grandfathered in and they have nothing to say about it until it becomes, someone dies on the road or something. I mean, it is boggling to my mind.
So what you're saying is that they're really not acting proactively to get ahead of all that?
No. Some of it, I will say the CVTA, the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, was created, was it 2020 or 2022? Recently. The point of the matter is that is we collect locally a percentage of the gas. It's a tax, basically. It's on gases that goes into a pot, gets divided between the localities, and then 15% of it goes to to GRTC, which funds a lot of our buses that are going on, right, especially because the buses are free right now. Plan RVA this is it getting into the weeds here, but Plan RVA is like a collective regional collaborative where we all work together, so we can each put in 10 smart scale projects a year to be funded by the state. Plan RVA can do another 10 of them on top of that because they were given rights by the legislation to do that. And so they work on ones that will affect multiple jurisdictions that we did not submit ourselves as a locality. And so I think that those dollars are getting used and helping to get, but again, how far behind are we, and can we catch up with all the projects that need to be done? We're trying, but I don't know.
What would be the biggest help for citizens to show their support for the supervisors and to let their views being known to them, and just in a sense of better communication with the public? I think the public sometimes feels that they have their important issue, and if it's not being covered, they're not interested in going to a meeting or not interested in following up with it and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I get it. Life is busy, and you don't always have time. But again, there are ways to submit comments online before our meetings that we all see. There isn't a limit on that. Like for the public comments, there's always a limit of only 5 people can speak in each of the speaking periods, and so that's only 10 people at a meeting on our monthly meetings. 15 if you count the 2 o'clock meeting as well. However, anyone can submit a comment, and we all get those. I read them. I don't know if everybody else reads them, but again, they can't say that people aren't saying things. And this is something that I think is so important, that I think that people say things, we need to listen to them. And I get frustrated when our other supervisors are just like, why don't they just stop emailing us? Well, they're pissed off. That's why they're emailing us. One of them actually asked me, why do they keep showing up at our board meetings? Do they think that we're actually going to have anything to say about the Dominion? I said, it doesn't matter. They have a right to be here because they have a voice and they want to be heard. If Dominion would be honest and let them know that we won't have a say in it, that would be one thing. But Dominion is waffling. So you're just going to have to deal with them being here because that's their right as citizens. And so...
And in some cases, the issue surrounds land that is actually owned by the county and is developed by the county. So that creates a special set of problems or special set of circumstances for it.
Agreed. I have some concerns about some of, and again, I've only been here for, it's not even 6 months, and I'm trying to get myself as educated as possible about the things, but there's so much. It's almost overwhelming sometimes, and I get really like, but it's necessary. I mean, we just gotta keep pushing.
Join us next time for more interviews with Chesterfield residents about our county, our government, and what you can do to be involved. This is Mark Brooks.